This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
All right. Hello, and welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi, and I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning on another segment of Retirement Keys. Before we get started with the show, I'd like to introduce our fabulous co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. We could not do the show without him. Tony brings just a wealth of information. He is really gets to interview retirement planners and financial advisors all over the country. So he's got a very unique
Perspective, right?
Perspective, absolutely,
Thank
Tony.
you for
Thank
that,
you for that.
Anthony.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That you really do, and so that's why you bring so much depth to the show. So we thank you for being here, Tony.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Anthony. And you made a little pun there. It's a financial show, and you said a wealth of information, but really, Anthony, I'm the co-host. I'm just along for the ride, my good looks and charm. You're the financial information man. So I think you're the one with the wealth of knowledge. But yeah, I do have a unique perspective, that's for sure. And I've done shows with financial advisors all over the country, and you and I meet with the top advisors from time to time and get together and, compare notes. So that's always fun. But I love doing the show with you. And I love the fact that we've got people all over the New Orleans area and Louisiana listening to us right now. And I appreciate them tuning into the show. But Anthony, this is going to be a good one. We're going to continue with our series, Questions to Ask Before You Retire. And we've gone through a little over half the list so far. So I'm anxious to dig into that. But first, how have you been? Are you keeping busy? Are the boys keeping you busy?
Yeah, they really are, Tony. We've been doing some fishing, but I tell you, it's been so hot.
Yes.
But we get out there. We just got back. My oldest son, we just got back from a little fishing trip in Cocodrie, and we actually did pretty well this time. But we did it all kind of by the book. We were at our spot by 6 o'clock, 5:45. So,
Yep.
Sun just coming up and all of this, but it's a long day. I mean, by the time you get down there and you get in your fishing spot and all that, but we did good. So we had a great pass trip. As I say, it's getting extremely hot, but we enjoy that. And yeah, kids are doing good. And Anthony's finishing up. Actually, he's finishing up his last class at UL, and he'll be, he's getting his finance degree at UL,
wow.
and he's a real statistics kid. I mean, he loves statistics and financial he loves numbers and stats.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what he's, really shined in
Chip
school.
off the old block, I guess, huh?
Well, I guess he's really, he's a, really bright kid, and
Sure.
And so, yeah, so it's been good, and the others are doing really well. What about your group, Tony? I know you have a couple of them that have finished. And
yeah, well, I have one that's about halfway through college, Allison, our middle daughter, and Adam has graduated, and he's now working in the healthcare field as a medical assistant, and he's still doing some grad school to be a PA. He's trying to decide if he's going to be an RN, a PA, an LPN, but he's definitely in the healthcare field. He's working full-time right now in our local town at the local clinic, so that's really good. And he and his wife just moved into a new apartment. So and my youngest is starting college this year, so all three will be out of the house, will be empty nesters, and that'll be different for us. That's a different experience. But having three kids in college is hurts the finances. Let's just put it that way.
Well,
It's
yeah, I
expensive.
mean, it's not cheap, you're right.
No.
And so then as you say, y'all will be empty nesters, so that'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it should be fun. I mean, we'll miss the kids, but they're not far away. They're all close, so we'll still see them quite often, and that's a good thing. And my wife really, really misses them, but they do stop by, and I miss them as well. But it's emotional for her to have them all out of the house. So
Yeah,
uh,
they say it's like boomerangs, though. They,
yeah,
they
they'll come
get out,
back.
they got us, and then all of a sudden we get into their mid-20s, and then here they
Yeah.
come again,
Yeah, here they come again. Well, we'll see. Adam's married and living on his own, and he's 24, so that's good. I think he's definitely on his own. But the other two, I don't know. We may see them again. But where are we at in our questions? I thought where are we at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we were on question 11, but before we get into it, I just want to mention to our listeners that, it really dawned on us, a while back that when we meet with our clients and prospective clients, that, we hear a lot of good questions from clients and prospective clients. I mean, over the years, you could imagine, but not everybody, if you will, has all the questions. And of course, this list is not all of the questions, but it dawned on us that we thought it would really be helpful if when our clients come in, or prospective clients, or just really just the community at large, I mean, whether they come in or not, that they would have some really specific quality questions that should be asked, as far as we're concerned, as it relates to their investments, as it relates to their retirement plan. What are those questions? A lot of times people just, in some instances, just really don't know. It's kind of like sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I mean, it's like me, trying to buy a computer, right? I mean, there's so many different variations and options, and they start talking about, I don't know, I don't even know the terms, gigabyte and RAM, and
Yep.
I don't. So, if I don't know what to ask, then how do I get the right answers? And or any answer at all, for that matter. And so it really dawned on us with retirement planning. Let's put together a list of questions that we really feel strongly about, and give it away. Give it to our listening audience. Tell them how to get them. So that way, whether they would come see us, or they're one of our clients, or they have their own doing it themselves, they would have a really good quality list of questions. So with all that said, there's 20 questions that we believe strongly that you should ask before you retire, or frankly, in retirement. These are always going to be good questions. We're on number 11, and these questions are going to be wrapped around, actually 10. We're going to be talking about Social Security and retirement income. So I think we're on question 10, Tony, if I'm not mistaken. The first four were on estate planning and how things should pass on, and some good
Yep.
questions about that. Actually, we had an attorney on last week about estate planning, so that's certainly important. The next four questions, so from 5 to 8, were on long-term care and
Yep.
protecting our assets against health care. So I think we're going to start on the last question on long-term care was 8, actually. So I think 9 is going to be getting into income and Social Security. So I think 9, 10, 11, and 12, maybe those 4 questions, hopefully we can get to.
Yeah, for sure. So where do we start here? We're talking about income, right? I mean, the next question is how to determine how much net income will I need in retirement? How do we do that?
Right. So, yeah. So, very good. That's a good question. So, when we think about retirement planning, income planning, structuring income, obviously is a foundational aspect or piece of retirement planning, right? As you know, the 5 keys that we focus on and what these questions are wrapped around are the 5 aspects of a retirement plan, which are enhanced planning, right? Estate and legacy planning. So enhanced planning, investments, income, healthcare, and taxes really are the 5 keys, if you will. And so these questions are going to be wrapped around income planning, which we would say out of the 5 keys to a stress-free retirement, income planning is going to be a foundational piece of a retirement plan, because when we retire, let's face it, what is the, besides gaining your freedom and being retired and not having to work or go on the job, obviously that's the, a wonderful, can be a wonderful transition. But what goes away when we do that? And that, of course, is our income.
Yeah.
So our retirement plan, our income plan has to be something to consider. And so, as you say, this question is, well, how do I determine, and the key word is net, how do I determine how much net income will I need in retirement? So I would say, Tony, there is 2 primary ways to go about this. The first is going to be the most cumbersome. And but we have, obviously, there's programs out there and software where you can really do these elaborate budgets, and as a matter of fact, I've met, many engineers over the years, and you ought to see some of the spreadsheets they come in here with. And it's got expenses and almost every, but they have to download information from their credit card statements and, bank statements. I mean, you really have to drill down and really determine, okay, what do we need? What are we spending? So they have these real elaborate budgets and software where you can really drill down to try to determine, answering this question, which is, how do I determine how much net income will I need in retirement? So we can do all that, and then we got to figure in the taxes and everything else to determine how much somebody's going to need. And that's one way to do it, and it is very cumbersome, but it can be relatively accurate. The second way, I would say, Tony, that is more accurate and a lot easier, a lot less cumbersome, and that is to just look at what your net income is now that you're living on while you're working. So, if you get paid every 2 weeks, Tony, or twice a month, or however you're structured, of course, your employer is presumably taking out taxes, right? Federal taxes and state taxes, and maybe you're putting into a retirement plan or a 401k. But that net number, that your take-home pay, that money that you're bringing in every payroll, every paycheck, that's your net, right? That's a good place to start, because if the income that you're receiving is satisfying your lifestyle and paying your bills and expenses, your net number, then we like starting there. Now, I know there's plenty written on that, white papers and books, and plenty written on, the percentage of the net. So there's some, I think probably the rule of thumb is, if your retirement income plan will solve for 80% of your net income in retirement, that's kind of a rule of thumb. So in our plans, Tony, we like to solve for 100% of the net. So whatever someone is bringing in right now, presently, net, and then, of course, we have to adjust for inflation depending on how far out their retirement is. If it's a year away, then the numbers are going to be pretty close. If it's 10 years away, then we have to adjust that net number. But nevertheless, we like to use the net number in what you're earning now as a good starting point. And we think that's the great place to start, Tony.
Right. And then the number you plan for is the net number you'll need in retirement not the before taxes number, obviously.
Right. Well, because your gross number, Tony, is going to be, let's say, higher, but you're paying presumably higher taxes. You're putting into your 401k. Other things are coming out of your check, maybe
That's
short and
true.
long-term disability. So it's really the take-home number. Now, once we get that net number, then we go about the business of saying, okay, well, what is the health care going to cost? And what is Medicare going to cost? Because we need to make sure that our health care, Medicare, any type of, long-term care planning, all, everything is factored in as it is now while you're working, right? I mean, your net number that's coming in right now, is considering that you've already paid your health insurance, and other expenses that are coming out of your check. So we have to, work the same way. But we solve for a retiree to transition into retirement, and we feel and have seen it over and over that really solving for enough income in retirement, making sure we're not shortchanging ourselves, really lends to a very smooth transition. You don't want to, all of a sudden, be pulling money out of the wrong accounts at the wrong time throughout retirement because the income that's been structured isn't enough. And so it needs to be dialed in, and we need to make sure that the income that's coming in is going to be sufficient, not only for, our expenses and bills, but also some fun, right?
Right.
How, factoring in those, the income for, vacations and weekend trips or whatever, people's hobbies are, and making sure that all that's factored in. But it's really important. I mean, I remember ING, this was maybe 15 years ago, that this was the company with the lion, and you remember that orange, they were the orange lion. Some of our listeners may remember. And I remember their whole platform, and this was, I don't know, 15 years ago or more. They said, "What is your number?"
Yep, I remember that ad campaign. What is your number? Yep.
Yeah, what is your number? And for a lot of people, it's probably thinking, what are they talking about?
Right.
But that's what they were talking about. They were saying, hey, what is your number? When you retire, the two biggest questions that we have for any of us, anybody that we meet, any of our clients, the two biggest questions we can ask as it relates to this is, when do you want to retire? Like, what's the time frame? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 2 years? So when are you going to retire? So we need that.
Yep.
And that's, and then how much income are we solving for? What do we, net income, what are we shooting for? And like I say, if they're living comfortably on the income they're bringing in now, that's pretty much a really good benchmark or good indication of what we should be considering as it relates to our retirement income plan.
Sure. And that makes sense. And so you're solving for that number. You have to solve for that number. And that's where you come in, because that's something people have trouble with on their own. And it's not that easy to figure out. And a lot of people miss a lot of things if they try to do it on their own. You have to take into consider, like you mentioned, healthcare costs, inflation. So you want to make sure, taxes, and that's a big one. And we've touched on that, and I know we have a couple questions here coming up about taxes. And, people don't realize that there will be taxes in retirement, and even Social Security can be taxed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we want to factor all that in. The other thing too, Tony, is depending on what type of assets we're structuring. I mean, if it's IRAs and 401ks, all this pre-tax money, of course, all that's considered ordinary income. But then there's these Roth IRAs where all that income is tax-free. Then, as you mentioned, Social Security can be taxed, but up to a certain percentage, not 100%. And then you have after-tax money where the taxes may be just the dividends and the interest inside of or capital gains inside of a non-qualified or an after-tax account. So I guess what I'm saying, and not to, get too far into the weeds, but let's just agree that all these sources of income can be taxed differently, right? So we know that. So the question is, how do you structure that income from these various sources, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, right, to be as tax efficient in retirement as we can be?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's important. And I hope our listeners grabbed what I just said. All of these types of accounts and even Social Security is all taxed a little differently. So when you start talking about a distribution strategy and taking money out, the question is, how do we utilize the tax implications to, to the best of our ability and advantage to be able to structure income in the most tax efficient way? That's critical, Tony. That right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is critical. And so people don't realize, your Social Security can be taxed up to 85% of it, correct?
That's right. But yet if you structure income, depending on how you structure the income, you may be able to lower that percentage down.
Yep.
Which really brings us to question 10, which is, what are the best strategies to maximize our Social Security benefits? So that's a question. That's question 10 on our worksheet or a handout that we want to give all our listeners. All you have to do is go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com, and when you get home, and then just fill out, you'll see it right on the front of the website to get your questions to ask before you retire. And the 20 questions, the worksheet that has the 20 questions that we're going over, is right there for you. And we just encourage you to just go get the questions, because it's key questions, no matter who you're talking to. But question 10 is, what are the best strategies to maximize my Social Security benefits? And, Tony, as you know, there is a report that we include in all of our retirement plans, and it's called the Social Security Maximization Report. Okay.
Yep.
And if income planning, let's say, is the foundation of a retirement plan, let's say income planning is a foundational piece, I would say that your Social Security strategy is the foundation of your income plan.
Yes.
So it's a real foundational piece, right?
Yeah, it's
Social
huge. So you're saying it's really, really important. So a good question to ask is, how do I maximize it? Because you're going to lock in that amount, and that's the amount you're going to get for the rest of your life, right?
That's right. And as you know, because I know you've been involved with other firms and ours as well, and have seen the reports and have been in those types of planning meetings. And as you know, that now we don't know how long everybody's going to live, right? So the limitation of the report is using life expectancy, but the report uses average life expectancy for the, let's say, husband and wife, or if it's a single filer, but it uses average life expectancy, and it gives us 4 scenarios. It gives us filing at your earliest date. It gives you filing at full retirement age. It gives filing at the latest date, which is age 70. So you can file anywhere from 62 to 70. And then it gives the optimization strategy. And, Tony, in many, many cases, especially for married couples that can, draw off of the spouse and the survivor benefit and all of this, when you look at the worst strategy, and again, if everybody dies when they're supposed to, right? So it's using life expectancy. Sure. So that's the limitation, as I mentioned. But if we can reasonably say, hey, we're going to live to at least average life expectancy, from the worst strategy to the best strategy, Tony, sometimes it's $200,000 and $300,000 difference between the money that we could have collected and the money that we will collect.
Wow.
And so
ask the right questions. get that Social Security maximized, right? And
of course, because then when you see your income plan and your distribution strategy, because as I say, that's a foundational piece. So once you know how to maximize Social Security, when you start utilizing the maximization strategy within the income plan, all of a sudden it's a, horse of a different color, right? I mean, all of a sudden your income plan starts looking a lot better because of that core Social Security strategy that you're utilizing. So, yeah, I mean, it's, as I say, if income planning is a foundational piece to any retirement plan, the foundation to the income plan is the Social Security strategy. Definitely.
You know what? We're out of time for today's show, Anthony. It just flew by. So in order to get that Social Security maximization report, all our listeners have to do is give you a call. What's that phone number again before we go?
Sure. 504-828-2171, 504-828-2171, or go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com. Please get the list of the questions. Even the next time you visit your own financial advisor, retirement planner, benefits planner, whoever you meet with or whoever you deal with, get the questions. They're great questions to ask any retirement planner, and we would love to be able to show you and give you a second opinion if you're inclined. Just reach out at 504-828-2171, and we're just happy to be the best resource and partner we can be.
All right. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with our host, Anthony Congemi. Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.